And now let us take a moment to settle ourselves, to open our hearts and minds to what worship will bring to us this morning. At the sounding of the chimes, let us begin our worship.
Thank you, Andrew. That was really beautiful. Hello and welcome. My name is the Reverend Alyssa Lee, and my pronouns are she or they. And I'm so happy to have you joining us today, whether you're in person or online. I hope you know that you're always welcome here. Our worship theme for the month of October is deep listening. Today you will hear about a rabbit who knew the best way to be there for a friend is to simply sit and listen and hear what his friend has to say. We'll also talk about some of our Unitarian Universalist ancestors who heard the call from none other than the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and showed up, sometimes putting their own bodies on the line. For our part, this congregation has listened to the members of our community who asked us to be present for the Souls to the Polls event after this service. I hope I'll see you there. Quieting our own inner monologue and truly hearing what people need from us can be one of the most difficult things to do. Let us wade through these waters together and open our hearts and minds as we remind ourselves that sometimes the greatest act of love can simply be to listen. Let us begin our worship.
Sometimes I can even read my own script. For our unison chalice lighting up on the board, I hope, we will have the Middleton clan light our chalice. 3 generations. Nice job. For our collective liberation by Reverend Deanna Van Diver. We light this chalice, symbol of our faith, alive in this world, naming our vision of collective liberation and daring to remember each of other into beloved community. I swear I can't read. For our first hymn, number 1008 in the hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It will also be up on the screens, but if you need to get the melody, then by all means use the hymnal.
I would like to invite our seekers to grab your cushions and come join me over here. None of you are hearing me right now, are you? There we go. Come on over. Here we go. Just some story time. We'll just do it here. That's fine. How about we'll just stay here then? That's good too. Yeah. Does this work for you all? Okay. All right. This is called The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld. Has anybody read this before? I know George has because we own this book, don't we? It's one of our favorites. You've read it too? Awesome. It's one of my favorites. I will tell you, grown-ups, I think about this book probably daily and how much I've learned from it, so I'm just going to tell you that now. All right, The Rabbit Listened. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special. something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. That's really sad, isn't it? Yeah. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. And she turned the page. Here we go. Grr, arr, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Rawr, arr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Chump-duh, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, hee, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, gulp, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, tisk, tisk, what a mess. Let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. It's maybe not the kindest choice, huh? But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, so eventually they all left until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together, they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." It's a good book, right? So, question for you, our seekers. Has there ever been a time when you wish maybe someone had just listened and not told you what to do? Yeah? Yeah. It's kind of hard, though, sometimes to just listen, isn't it? Yeah. Like I said, I think about this book all the time, and I think, be a rabbit to myself when I'm prone to give advice. Well, thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy your classes this morning, and I think we're going to sing our seekers out. If you'll join us, please. I drew this while we were all doing it. I don't know what it is. All right. At this time, we take a moment to recognize the joys and sorrows we're holding in our hearts this week. Those present in the sanctuary are invited to come forward as you feel so moved to light a candle or place a shell or river stone in the fountain. If you're joining us over Zoom, please feel free to enter your personal joys and sorrows in the chat. We'll also be reading joys and sorrows that have been submitted to us in advance. If you have a joy or sorrow you would like to share with this community, please email it to joysandsorrows@uucwnc.org no later than 5 p.m. on the Saturday before the service. We just have one thing that was emailed in. I want to wish a very happy 29th wedding anniversary to Shelley and Mark Gentner. As Shelley tells it, we said we do in a lovely intimate wedding ceremony in Champaign, Illinois, where we were living, and our preacher was 6 feet 7 inches tall. The pictures say it all. Yes, please demonstrate.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
For those of you online, Shelley and Mark are not 6'7". And they were looking up quite a bit. As you come forward today to light a candle or place a shell or stone, or if you are online and share your joy or sorrow in the chat, may you feel the love and companionship of those who surround you here and online. And as people come forward, let us sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. Is Tina here? Do I see Tina? There you are. Okay, thank you. So I invite Tina Shank forward to tell us about our Share the Plate recipient for this week and next. I also want to share with you that our congregation was able to donate $1,080.50 for the Long March for Unity and Justice. Isn't that amazing? Thank you to Share the Plate, the committee for all of your hard work, and to all of you for giving so generously.
Good morning. My name is Tina Shank. My pronouns are she, hers, and I just want to say a few words about this week's Share the Plate recipient. Family Promise of Lower Cape Fear is the local branch of a national network whose purpose is to address and help solve the problems of homelessness in families, including but not limited to those families fleeing situations of domestic abuse. 25 million children will experience homelessness this year. Family Promise provides emergency and temporary shelter for such families while working with them on all aspects of housing, employment, mental health, getting the children in daycare and schools. As a very small piece of this large endeavor, Wilmington has had a network of churches, of which we are one, who assist the families by providing dinners to the families. We have been doing this in various forms for at least 10 years. It is really much more than delivering food. It is also a matter of bringing fellowship, providing support, and listening to their stories. Just last week, we had a family in which both parents were recovering addicts, and the son in high school, a senior in high school, had the lofty goal of getting a psychology degree and going on to be a counselor for substance abusers. I would go so far as to say that I never come away without having learned something from my experience, and I imagine all the volunteers feel that way. The mission of Family Promise is one that cannot be overstated. Your generous donation today will help every child find a place to call home. Please give generously. For more information, Family Promise has a website on the internet, or to volunteer, you can contact me at familypromise@uucwnc.org. Thank you.
Our offertory music is an original composition by Peter Rawich. Am I saying your last name correctly, Rawich? Good enough, hopefully. Called Listen and Learn. So thank you, Peter.
Welcome to our visitors. We gather every week to talk about our values. You know talk is cheap. Putting love into action is something we believe. So how will you know if we practice what we preach? Listen with your eyes and see what's going on. Listen with your ears before you sing along. Listen with your heart to feel some empathy. Listen and learn before you speak. In Selma, Alabama, 1965, Unitarian Universalists showed up for civil rights. They marched and sang for freedom, and some lost their lives. When justice calls, how will you decide? Listen with your eyes and see what's going on. Listen with your ears before you sing along. Listen with your heart to feel some empathy. Listen and learn before you speak. I was born into privilege, living in a white male world. My life is full of things I never earned. Now I sit at many tables where there are people with less power. They're the ones whose voices must be heard. Listen with your eyes and see what's going on. Listen with your ears you sing along, listen with your heart. To feel some empathy, listen and learn before you speak. Listen and learn before you speak. Listen and learn.
That was such a beautiful song. Thank you, Peter. Please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation. So I'll take a deep breath in and out. Take another deep breath in and out. I also have to say, would better sound while we're in meditation and prayer than the sound of a baby gurgling. Who I think may be leaving, but we still loved your sounds. Spirit of life and love, holy mystery who holds us and calls us home to our true selves. Many of us are feeling the weight of the election season, the fear, the anxiety, the unknown of it all. It's weighing on us, threatening to pull us down, threatening to cause us to despair, perhaps even give up. May we remember that there is always hope. When we look at the faces of those that surround us, when we remember those who work tirelessly for what they hold dear. And may we remember that we are not alone in this fear, this anxiety, nor in this hope. Let us take a moment today to rest in the silence of our own interconnectedness, of the peace that can come from belonging to a community of different people, but who share a collective love of peace and justice, and for whom love is a centering promise. Let us allow for the silence and the shared breathing to connect us to ourselves and to each other. Amen, and may it be so. I hope you'll join me for number 352 in our gray hymnal, Find a Stillness. It's on our screens, but you can also look in your hymnal if you're unfamiliar with the music. Please rise in body or spirit.
I Side with the People by Reverend Drew Payton, First Presbyterian Church of Berkeley. If ever they ask you which side are you on, tell them plainly, I side with the people, with the precious ones, all, the integral, the soft and the fierce, irreplaceable, the beloved, if only by God and trees, who were born and who breathe and survive. Say I side with those who keep watch beneath the bright screaming arc of bombs, with those who hide in dark doorways, or who through the moonlight flee, with those who stay and fight, and with those kept up all night by hunger and grief and terror and rage, by desperate unruly hope, who are good and green at the root, who are more than the worst they've done, who do their best to love and still pass on the hurt in themselves that they hate. But when they take sides against one another, the people, against even themselves, side with whatever is human in them, what is fragile and feeling and flesh, side with the truth of our stories, side with the fact of our pain, side with defiant insistence on freedom, side there again and again, side there today and tomorrow, side there the rest of your life, side there together until we belong each one to every other. If ever they ask you which side are you on, say it doesn't work like that. Tell them you side with the people and abide where the people are at.
Just want to say right up top that I will be talking about some difficult moments in history, some violent moments in history. So if you need to take a break, take care of yourself, do what you need to do. Also warning, this is going to be a lot of history up top, so hope that's interesting and illuminating to you all. At 4:57 a.m. on Monday, March 8th, 1965, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sent off a telegram that read, "In the vicious maltreatment of defenseless citizens of Selma, where old women and young children were gassed and clubbed at random, we have witnessed an eruption of the disease of racism, which seeks to destroy all of America. No American is without responsibility. All are involved in the sorrow that rises from Selma to contaminate every crevice of our national life. The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all of America help to bear the burden. I call, therefore, on clergy of all faiths representative of every part of the country to join me for a minister's march to Montgomery on Tuesday morning, March 9th. In this way, all America will testify to the fact that the struggle in Selma is for the survival of democracy everywhere in our land." It was amazing, right? Yeah. As many of you know, on March 7th, the day before, a group led by Chairman of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, who later became U.S. Senator John Lewis, set off on foot to walk from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama, a 54-mile trail. The march that day did not get as far as the 600 peaceful African-American marchers met by state troopers, as they were met by state troopers and the local sheriff's posse, who charged, trampled, clubbed, and tear-gassed the marchers. People around the country watched in horror as the news that night telecasted what happened. And when the Unitarian Universalist Association, also known as the UUA, headquarters received Reverend Dr. King's telegram, then president of the UUA, Dana McLean Greeley, wrote in the margins of his copy that director of the UUA Social Responsibility Department, Homer Jack, should alert some of the men to go. At that time, the different regions were divided into districts, and most of the district executives east of the Mississippi were asked to send ministers. Additionally, Orloff Miller, director of the UUA's Office of College Centers, began phoning across the country to college center clergy with whom he had worked. Reverend Dr. King also made a call to a UU minister he knew from Boston University's School of Theology, Gene Reeves. Many UU ministers jumped at the chance to go. They hitched rides in cars and on buses, and many, such as Clark Olson in Berkeley, California, who did not have the financial means, were met with messages when they arrived home or at their office that members of the congregation had already paid for their way to go. On the Tuesday afternoon after Dr. King's telegram went out, the UUs caucused and found there were 45 ministers and 15 lay people. And after 2 days, there were approximately 60 UU ministers were in Selma, which was nearly 10% of the active parish ministry of that time. On that Tuesday at 3 p.m., 2,500 marchers set out from Brown Chapel AME to the Pettus Bridge. At one point, a federal marshal stepped forward to read out a federal injunction against the march, but the marchers continued. As they walked over the crest of the bridge, the marchers were met by 500 Alabama state troopers blocking the highway. Dr. King, along with nuns, priests, rabbis, and ministers, knelt to pray. Dr. King then rose and led the marchers back to Brown Chapel AME. At the rally that followed, Dr. King explained that the state of Alabama was clearly reluctant to beat up a mixed racial group of people, and more people were on their way. He felt they should use the time to work through the courts. He asked for people that could to stay. One UU minister that decided to stay at the last minute was Reverend James Reeb, a white minister who had forsaken parish ministry so that he could work and live in the African American community in Roxbury, Massachusetts. When Reeb, the father of 4 children, originally got the call about Dr. King's telegram, he responded to his wife Marie's plea of, "There's others to go, you belong here," with, "No, I belong there. It's the kind of fight I believe in. I want to be part of it. Every man who can go is needed." On that Tuesday evening, after kneeling and praying at the Pettus Bridge, and after calling his wife at home to say that everything was well and he would be home soon, Reeb and a number of other UU clergy met for dinner. Afterward, Reeb, along with the Office of College Centers Orloff Miller and minister of the Berkeley Fellowship Olson, were making their way back to the Brown Chapel AME when they were attacked by a group of white men, one of whom hit Reeb in the head with either a baseball bat or a large piece of pipe. The other 2 were also attacked, but by the time the men made it to the SCLC, which is the Southern Christian Leadership Council office nearby, Reeb was in great pain. Through a variety of circumstances, largely because of the threats to their safety and the local police's unwillingness to provide an escort, It took hours for Reeb to receive medical care in Birmingham, by which time he'd fallen into a coma. Reeb died 2 days later. Both President Johnson and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called Reeb's widow, Marie, to express their condolences. And there were a number of memorial services for Reverend Reeb throughout the country, attended by dignitaries, including one in Selma in which he was eulogized by a number of high-profile religious leaders, such as Dr. King himself. The night of Reeb's memorial service, President Johnson addressed a joint session of Congress and introduced the Voting Rights Bill with his now famous words, "At times, history and fate meet at a single time and a single place to shape a turning point in man's unending search for freedom. So it was at Lexington and Concord, so it was a century ago at Appomattox, so it was last week in Selma, Alabama. There, long-suffering men and women peacefully protested the denial of their rights as Americans. Many were brutally assaulted. One good man, a man of God, was killed." It should be noted that Reeb was not the only good man who lost his life in the fight in Selma. On February 18th, 1965, Jimmy Lee Jackson, an African-American 26-year-old Army veteran, was shot while he was attending a nighttime rally and march in nearby Marion. A trooper began beating Jackson's grandfather and mother. Jackson tried to protect them and was shot at close range. He died 8 days later to little notice in the media or amongst major national politicians or other dignitaries. After Reeb's murder, Dr. King met with a few of the UU leaders and said he would understand, given the situation, if they wanted to return home. But they decided to stay and participate in the march to Montgomery, and even more UUs came. An anonymous member of the Bloomington, Indiana church put money up to charter a plane for a group to come to town. 90 people flew in from Denver. 2 buses were chartered from Rochester, New York, carrying 150 people, and a plane was chartered from Boston carrying 75 people. On the final day, among the 30,000 people who marched, about 500 were UU lay people and 250 were ministers, including the UUA president at the time. A block from the State House in Montgomery, Alabama, Dr. King addressed the crowd and said, "So I stand before you this afternoon with the conviction that segregation is on its deathbed in Alabama, and the only thing uncertain about it is how costly the segregationists and Wallace will make the funeral." A dampener on the march, however, was the murder that evening of UU layperson Viola Luzo, a mother of 5 children who had driven from Detroit to join the march. After the march, she was ferrying marchers back from Montgomery to Selma. She was heading back to Montgomery to pick up another group of marchers when her car pulled up beside her and shot her, killing her instantly. So why am I telling you all this? For starters, I think it's important for us to know our UU history and the role our forebears, I have a hard time with that word, had to march toward equality. I also think it's important to remember that for many UUs, our faith is tied to social action, not doctrine. I'm also talking to you about this because it's important to remember that those amongst us who I recognize is not everyone here, may sometimes be called to put ourselves in a variety of ways on the line for others who have marginalized identities. We shouldn't expect those communities to continue advocating for social and political values and ideals that many of us believe in without our real and actionable support. And also, it's a recognition that the call to action is often not coming from inside the house, but it is more an invitation to show up and support the work of others doing good in our community or our nation. even people who might not have the same political or religious views as ourselves. And those relationships formed doing this work can be some of the most meaningful relationships we will have. As a longtime organizer, I tend to think focusing on building relationships of trust and care between ourselves and others doing work we find valuable within our community can often be the most effective, especially when those people might look at the world a bit differently than us. Those relationships are the reason someone like Reverend Gene Reeves was called personally by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to come to Selma and assist. Before Selma, a number of UU ministers and laity around the country had built connections with the Black communities in their area through their work with the NAACP, the Urban League, and other community partners. In the book, Selma Awakening, from which I took much of the history for this sermon, the Reverend and historian Mark Morrison Reed said the groundwork for the UU's response in Selma had been laid during the decades between the end of the Second World War and the March on Selma. He says Unitarians and Universalists supported school desegregation, open housing, equal access, and integration. And the majority of their ministers reckoned with racial justice in some way. This is not to say they did not have a lot to grow on, and that, as many of them admit, they were fairly late to the party in places such as Selma. But the groundwork was being laid. So what does that mean for us now? I'm still new to your community, so I'm not sure where we need to get involved, but I know you likely do and would be interested to hear about it from you. I was overjoyed at seeing all the yellow shirts, and also today, dotting the sanctuary a few weeks ago in anticipation of marching or serving as peace monitors at the Long March for Unity and Justice. And I hope to see an even bigger turnout today for the Souls to the Polls walk starting today, right after the service at the St. Stephen AME Church. As I said earlier in the service, some of the most important listening we can do in our lives is listening to the voices of our community, centering their experiences, asking for what they need, and showing up. During the search process to find a settled minister, those in the middle of search, such as myself, are encouraged to call previous ministers, UUA regional staff, and a number of other people with knowledge and experience of a congregation. I did my due diligence on this congregation, and the sentiment I heard time and again is they don't even know how amazing they are. It's true. They show up for social justice issues and their community in ways that other congregations merely say they do. UUCWNC turns their belief into action. I was both impressed by this and very excited to meet you all. And the accolades I heard from others about you were spot on. Since joining you at the beginning of August, I have found a congregation that feels deeply about what is going on in their communities and the wider world, and who show up for each other in ways both large and small. I'm tremendously proud to be a part of this community, and I look forward to the ways we will continue to do good works and get into good trouble as our relationship and our shared ministry continues to deepen and grow. My hope for our future is that we are able to use the examples of our UU ancestors and the forebears of this congregation itself as guiding lights and step up when we are called, but also learn from their mistakes and do even better. That we remember today and always that we are a people of justice, and we are not afraid to speak up and speak out. That we continue to build real communities of trust and working relationships with those who perhaps worship differently than us. Amen and blessed be. I hope you'll join me. Oh, thank you. That's always nice. I hope you'll join me for hymn number 348, Guide My Feet. It's in your gray hymnal. Please rise and body your spirit.
I don't know about you, but I need to take a breath. I want to thank all the folks who made this possible. Hopefully their names will be up on the chancel. And believe me, it is a group effort each week, and I very much appreciate all the folks who have contributed to this wonderful service. It's now time to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I just have to say, has anyone noticed that Jimmy and I have the same haircut? Just wanted to point that out. When he cut his hair, I was like, twinsies. There you go. I know, it looks great. I need to figure out what product you're putting in your hair. Before I leave you today, and before I give the benediction, I just want to do a few notes. First, there will be a Souls to the Polls sign-in table in the lobby, so our social justice ministry can attend and to track who attended and enter their efforts into our action database. They will also have snack packs and water for you there, so please make use of the table. Second, I just want to say on a personal note, I know this is a difficult and stressful time for all of us. We feel anxious and scared about the election and the fate of our country, and I'm here for you. Your community is here for you. Please do not go through this alone. I read something the other day by the author Prentice Hemphill, in which she said, "A community becomes one, remains one, I think, through sharing feeling." Remember, we are your community. Even if you just joined us for the first time today, consider yourself a part of us. Reach out, share your feelings. We're in this together. The words for the benediction today come from the Reverend Leah Derlin Jones. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen and blessed be. I hope you will now join us for the Shalom, which is the singing of our final song. It's a long-standing tradition in this congregation that we close out the service with. Also, if you'll let me run by quickly before you start, that would be great. You're invited to hold hands with your neighbor. You're also invited to not, if that is uncomfortable to you.